Hi guys, how you going? Thank you so much for coming down to listen here now. My name is Laura Murphy-Oates. I am a Nyampa Whale woman and I am the presenter and producer on The Feed on SBS Iceland. And I'm really excited and happy to be on this panel and a part of Vivid. It's a massive honour. But also to be sharing the stage with 4 young emerging artists and producers who I've actually known and followed and admired for a really long time. Before we introduce all the panellists though, I'm going to invite Ani Donna Ingram up on the stage to do a welcome to country and give her a big warm welcome.
Good evening, everybody. It's my great pleasure to be here this evening to offer you welcome to country for Listen Here Now, breaking down barriers, creating new processes and throwing out the rules as part of Vivid Ideas. It gives me pride to represent my community in this important cultural protocol. It shows respect for and recognition to the unique position of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Australian culture and history. We are gathered on the traditional land of the Gadigal, who are one of 29 clans of the Eora Nation, which is bordered by the Hawkesbury, the Georges and the Nepean rivers. I'm an Aboriginal woman who proudly identifies with the Wiradjuri Nation from a town called Cowra in central west New South Wales. I was born on Gadigal land and I've had the privilege to live, work and raise my 4 children on this land for most of my life. Many of you know my family has grown and I'm now a proud grandmother to Aaliyah, Elijah, Kalila and Lakota. My wish for my grandchildren is that they grow up obviously to be happy and healthy, but for them to grow up in a society that offers them every opportunity to have their voices heard. I acknowledge the Gadigal, their spirits and ancestors who will always remain with the land, Mother Earth, and thank them for their ongoing custodianship and for allowing us to gather on their land this evening for what I'm sure will be a great discussion. I'm also very proud to be part of the oldest living culture in the world, the Aboriginal culture of Australia, with our unique and distinct heritage, cultures and identities. I pay my respects to our elders, both past and present, and we must never forget the sacrifices made by our leaders to create a better future for Aboriginal people. I do this as a reminder and as a tribute to elders and those who have gone before us to fight for land rights, justice and equity for our communities. I extend my respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from all clans and nations who are present this evening. I also recognise our non-Aboriginal sisters and brothers who walk beside us to listen with respect. I now offer you a warm and sincere welcome to the land of the Gadigal of the Eora Nation. Wish you a safe stay on the land and safe travel from the land. On behalf of my community and the Gadigal, I wish you a great evening at Listen Here Now that gives the next generation of Aboriginal arts practitioners the platform to voice their vision for the future of arts, screen and culture. Laura, Bee, Dobby, Travis and Medika, I think you're all deadly. I know you will break down barriers, create new processes and throw out the rules, reflecting the change in the way arts, screen and culture is produced. In closing, we remember that this is, was and always will be Aboriginal land. Thank you and you'll be great.
Thank you, Auntie Donna. So as she said, the theme for tonight is what it's like to be young, emerging and Indigenous in the arts. And this does mean breaking down barriers, creating new arts processes that reflect what's going on in Australian society, in arts, screen, culture, everything. More importantly, the panellists tonight are changing these scenes through an Indigenous lens. They're creating a future where there's more spaces for Indigenous voices and Indigenous artists coming through. Tonight we're going to break down how they do that and get paid for it. We're hopefully going to start some debate, maybe not too fiery, Travis, and we're going to get a peek at their creative processes. We've even got an exclusive screening of a new music video, lots of stuff going on. So I'm going to bring up the panellists kind of one by one and we'll just have a little bit of a chat with each of them so you get to know them. First one I'm going to bring up is Murawari rapper, composer and FBI radio host Rhyan Clapham AKA Dobby. Please welcome him to the stage. Come join me.
Okay.
So, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's cool. Hey, I'm on.
Yeah, you're on. First thing I want to do is thoroughly embarrass you because you've had an incredible couple of years. I'm going to read out some of the things that he's done. You did your Bachelor of Music at UNSW and then your honours in Indigenous Studies, focusing on Indigenous hip-hop. But last year you were one of 5 artists picked for an Indigenous Composer Initiative. And this year, you're the sole winner of the Create New South Wales Peter Sculthorpe Fellowship, which is $30,000 prize for an emerging composer. So,
hey, thank you.
Somehow, in amongst that, you have found the time to be a part of 2 different music projects as well. Tell us a little bit about those.
I've got a few music projects that I keep, circling around. One
is
of
it
which
2 or how many are there?
I mean, if you count, I think there's more than
Sorry.
I mean, it's between Dobby, which is my rap persona, and then I'm also a drummer and rapper in Jackie Brown Jr., which is a funk rap indie band, very fun, lots of energy, but different persona. And then there's also, like you said, the Indigenous Composers Initiative that I'm a part of, and then the Peter Sculthorpe music that I'm making. Yeah.
Busy guy. So you've got hip-hop, jazz, composing. How do all of those genres come into play when you're sitting down to create new music? And do they actually inform each other in the music that you make?
I think they definitely do. I mean, music in its own ways, in different genres, will be able to speak to people, whether it's lyrically or sonically, or and then through, either the harmonies or whether it's the story. There's so many different ways. Hip hop is one that kind of, for me anyway, speaks more directly to people, and it represents people, So I think when you make stories, when you make music in hip hop, it's a different feeling for me than when I'm making music in the classical realm or like the new music realm. So lately I'm trying to merge the two. So between hip hop and classical, trying to figure out what ways they can kind of intersect, and
What came first out of the passions? Was it hip hop? Was it composing, jazz?
It shouldn't be a difficult question, but it is a bit of a difficult. I started off classical piano, but my first love was, I'd say hip hop.
Nice.
And then I started studying jazz, but hip hop was always.
Now you've actually got a new single coming out, and we have an exclusive screening tonight of the music video to play for everyone. So let's play it now. Everyone, this is My Mind by Dobby.
It never ends.
Coming from my mind, I'ma lose my mind. Yeah, coming from my. My brother been working so hard all day. My brother been working so hard all day. Wall full of gold here, chilling in my old room. Bouncing the raps that I found in the past. I'ma turn up the volume. We ain't gonna go soon, but I never know when. Educated guess, don't have much time left. Inevitable death, or I'm dumb, blind, deaf. Get it off my chest. Passion, the sign of a great mind, live a great life. We can aim high at the same time. Can't shine in the middle of the daylight. Living in. Grinding till I'm all run out of golden years. Writer's block, recycled all my old ideas. Brain in the bind, unsettling. Feel it rattling in my skeleton. Travel all the way to my melanin. Paranoid, think you're relevant. Kick your melanin. Fingers in a million pies. Trying to live a million lives. Everyone dies. Think another window went by. Guess I gotta keep it in mind. Got a funny feeling inside. Meaning I don't really feel right. Stuck in my thoughts. I've been really busy and tired. You can make the video live. Isn't my time? My brother, my brother. My brother, my brother. My titter, my titter. My titter, my titter. My sister girl. My brother, you're invincible. My brother, you against the world. My titter, my titter. My sister my mind. I've been having trouble sleeping at night, second guessing, always eat up my life. So ironic, I don't feel like I'm eating right. Working up late till the beat is right. To desire the boogie's a piece of pie, till I satisfy every blood people buy. Yeah, got my damn feet up, I can feel the pressure, better get my sangria. People tell me listen to me, Dobby, they've been looking for somebody that can bring us all together, Pangea. But fella storytelling A's off, talk about my skin at Nadog. Cousin put away that face wash and get up and dance, nah shame job. I got my nephew producing it, ayy. Wanted to check what he do with it, ayy. Everyone listening losing it, yo. And I should mention he new to it, ayy. Guapo Filipino photogenic, how you growing up and told already. Know yourself, brother, don't forget it. If you really got a dream, then go and get it. Cause they get butthurt like Tabasco. I'm about to rip up the dance floor. I know my story, I let it tell him through my dance moves and my cerebellum, through my voice box and my focus. Hoping all of them would notice, and I won't quit till my throat give, till my lungs die, till there's no spit. My brother, my brother, my brother, my brother, my titter, my titter, my titter, my titter, my sister girl, my brother, you're invincible. My brother, you against the world. My titter, my sister girl, my titter, yeah. My brother, been working so hard all day, so hard all day. My titter, been working so hard all day, so hard all day. My brother, my sister girl, my titter, you're invincible. My brother, you against the world. My titter, my titter.
So amazing.
Thank you.
Can you actually just talk us through some of the things that we saw there? Where were you shooting? And apparently it was all shot in a day, is that right?
Yeah, over the space of a couple of days, yeah. So we got most of the footage on a Saturday, which a lot of things were happening. You could see the Black Deaths in Custody protests that was being led by Vanessa Turnbull Roberts and Lizzie Jarrett at Town Hall. It all just kind of came into place. Luke Curry Richardson was in the area. We also then traveled to Mount Druitt to see my cousin Lily Shearer. We went down to Como Station to see Eric Avery, and it was all in the space.
You just happened to be at the station playing violin, and you were like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're like, oh, quick, film it. Yeah, but the idea behind it is that I've selected 12 people, and there was plenty more that I also talked to and asked, and things fell through. Lizzie Jarrett and Nessa Turnbull Roberts actually were two people I had in mind, but we actually ran out of film.
Next music.
Yeah, but that was bad. But and I should do a shout out as well, because I'm seeing some people who were part of it: Sarah Khan, Georgia Mokak, Lawana up the back there. Am I missing? Yeah, but yeah, and so it was really, it's all about Blackfella excellence, and in all different fields, and the ways in which we contribute back to community, and the ways in which we survive and excel in a system that's designed against us. And so you've got people like Luke Curry Richardson, who's a Bangara dancer traveling around the world. My cousin Lily Shearer, who has worked on the Biomi's Nunu Festival and is obviously the co-founder of Mugalin Performing Arts. What? So,
Not shut up.
Yeah. So yeah, and so it was nice to have just representation, just people in the video who were just being them, not necessarily doing anything. Dancing, like
hanging,
being fly.
We are seeing this kind of new wave of Indigenous hip hop, yourself included, but Briggs being an amazing example of that, being explicitly political and explicitly promoting black pride and calling out racism. Why is hip hop a good medium, and why is it exploding for Indigenous people to express that type of political activism?
I think hip hop is. It's so much more relevant now, especially in Australia, than ever. It just surpassed pop music in America as the most popular music in music. And the ways in which we can talk about our issues, especially especially Aboriginal issues, where we can tell our story. And it's all about representation. It comes down to, this is my story. Hip hop is a way that I can tell you my story that would have not been told in the in the journal articles that you read, or in newspapers that you read, or on soap operas that you watch. So hip hop was always there. And the thing that I love about it is it's free. it's instant. You don't need a $20,000 cello to practice on it. You can speak your mind and tell people what's going on. All you need is yourself and a beatboxer, you know, and then you're already engaging in that cultural tradition of hip hop that has been coming out since like the early 70s. You know, there's so much power within it. And it's not just music as well, it's lifestyle, it's education, it's culture, it's community. The ways in which Indigenous culture is so, like, it goes hand in hand with hip hop. It's a teacher-parent, a teacher-student culture, knowledge. Yeah, anyway, I could go
So what
on.
you're saying is all we need is a beatboxer in the audience and you can give us a performance at the end? Is that...
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, I'm going to start bringing up some more panellists. Let's stack out this stage. The next person I want to bring up is Bee Cruse. She's a Gomeroi, Wiradjuri and Monaro Yuin woman. And she's a self-professed jack of all trades in theatre, television, film. She's worked alongside Rachel Perkins and Wayne Blair on Redfern Now and Cleverman. And right now she's narrowing down her focus as a writer, director and impact producer. Can you all welcome Bee Cruse to the stage? Woo!
Yeah.
Come join. So we'll just get up some photos to kind of illustrate some of the work that you're doing at the moment.
Sure.
Hopefully get them up on our screens. Cool. So can you talk us through the photos that we're seeing and explain to us what they're about and a little bit about impact producing, what that actually is?
So impact producing is quite a new term. I believe, like, to me, it's producing art that plants a seed or creates some form of change. And that's for society, not just one group of people, but for greater society. It's funny because before I started working on this project, I'm about to show you some pictures. I was hoping to show you a trailer, but it's not finished at the moment. I felt like I was doing this kind of work long before I became an impact producer.
Well, there was a name for it.
Yeah, I always picked jobs that really, that created change, that were a bit radical, that were really different, or that would teach people something, something outside their box. So this image here is a picture of Dewan and his mother, Megan, and they live in Alice Springs. The director of this film, the film's called Kids, I should mention, working title. The director of the film is called Maya Newell. She did a documentary called Gaby Baby. She basically started telling me a yarn about this young fella, Dewan. He's an 11-year-old Nankara from Alice Springs. Nankara is basically a cultural healer. They use their energy, their culture to heal diseases in other people. So this is a picture of Dewan healing his auntie in hospital. His auntie had a broken leg at the time, and he said, "No, I need to go in and shoo her." So he went in and spent time with her. And for me, connecting with Dewan was so important because he's the reason I'm working on this documentary with Maya and the rest of our amazing team. He's the reason I wanted to become an impact producer, because he, like myself, I was born in Western Sydney. I'm a storyteller. I know that there's a lot of people who call themselves storytellers, but my great auntie Iris gave me that when I was 12 years old. She was the storyteller of our family, and she passed that on to me when I was 12. Unfortunately, I didn't get to learn the cultural elements to being a storyteller, but that's what Dwan's doing. And I think it's so important to understand our cultural roles in a white Western context. And that's why I'm so dedicated to being an impact producer.
Just with to break that down for people a little bit, in a practical sense, this is a new field that's opened up maybe in the past 5-10 years, impact producing. What are some of the things that an impact producer brings to a documentary project, and what's some of the big national goals or community goals that you would work on?
Well, to me, working in Alice Springs, something completely outside of my own context in Western Sydney, I've learnt from Maya and the rest of our team that it's all about relationship building, but genuine relationship building. Not just saying, we're going to go into a community, make a couple of friends, let's make a film about them. I mean, Maya, credit to her and her work, her dedication, she actually moved up to Alice Springs. She's been filming this documentary for 2 years now, but this whole story has started with an 8-year relationship that she had with community elders there, in particular Dwan's grandmother, Carol, and 2 community-led organisations, which are Akilita and Children's Ground. And she saw the importance of telling this kind of story that 2 worlds learning, you know?
And what's an example, I suppose, in impact producing broadly? I mean, I know you can create education programs. What are the different stuff that impact producers do?
Well, we go in and we build those genuine relationships, but it's all about listening to the community and seeing what they want from a story. So with a story like Dwan's, for example, I feel like the reason it's taking so long to tell this story is because we're still working together with the community to see what they want. It's led by Dwan and his family, elders in the community, stakeholders in the community, but also we bring, as professional filmmakers and storytellers, we bring in expertise to help the community in their decision making. And if the community turns around and says, we want this story to go all over the world, we want every First Nation person to feel like they have a place in this world, which is why I'm on this documentary. I feel like I'm doing my job by trying to make that happen. An impact producer, we create the steps to get to where we're going, wherever the community wants us to go, wherever Dwan wants us to go.
Why is that? You know, it sounds like impact producing is making sure that art doesn't just exist in and of itself. It goes on to do good for the people that you're filming with and the rest of the community. Why do you think it's important for art to create that change? And is that something that you want in every single project that you do?
Definitely. I feel like, because to me art transcends, you know, any form of art. That's why I love working in film, television and theatre. No matter what job I go to, it's something new, something exciting and different every day for myself. But to me, like in one of the interviews that I gave, art gave me kind of like a superhero power. You know, it gave me the confidence to, like I'm actually up here shitting myself right now, but it's given me the confidence to be here in these kinds of spaces.
Yeah, for real.
And open these conversations up so other young people, like if there's a young person in this crowd right now who's wanting to get into the arts, you know, come and speak to me, let's work there together. And I feel like the jobs that I take just kind of encourage that as well.
Dobby, you're nodding. I feel like that's something that you kind of do in your work as well, it sounds like.
Absolutely, yeah, that really resonates with me. And, you know, it's your, it's your superpower. It's what it's your power with which you, like, help community or help someone or inspire people or educate people. You use that to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So was there one more photo that we wanted to look at there, or was that the last?
No, I can just end on this one, but this is just a photo of a couple of members of our team on, wait, is it your left? The lady closest to me with the blue shirt, that's our producer, Rachel Edverson. The lady next to her is Maya Newell, our director. The lovely lady standing next to her is Felicity Hayes. She's our executive producer, but she's also the owner of Alice Springs. She's quite an amazing woman. And that's this little black duck sitting on the end.
Cool. Well, I'll bring up another panellist as well. Next person I want to introduce is Medika Thorpe, a Gunai and Garang woman. She started as a dancer, facilitating dance workshops all around Australia, and also appearing on television on Express Yourself and Move It Mob Style, which was nominated for a Logie. And now she kind of works kind of behind the scenes in film and television, moving from NITV to ABC's Black Comedy, and she's also the executive director of Windsor Film Festival. Everyone give her a big welcome, Medika. So, Dix, your love of film started with Imaginative, the biggest Indigenous film festival in the world, and then you came back to Australia and decided to start Winder with Pauline Clegg and a team. Tell us what Winder is. Tell us about it.
Well, I'll start with Imaginative because that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah.
Imaginative is the world's largest Indigenous film festival, Imaginative and Film and Media Arts Festival in Toronto, Canada. And I moved to Canada 4 years ago, not really, just wanted to live abroad, try it out. And went over there with no job lined up. But I was introduced to a couple of people that were in the arts. And went over there, and for a few months I wasn't working. I was kind of just really getting myself introduced to the area, kind of meeting people in the community and all that kind of stuff, just introducing myself and, just wanted to, put it out there that, I want to connect with the mob there. Mm-hmm. And then I scored an awesome job working with the festival, and I stayed with them for 2 years and as the guest services manager. So I got an opportunity and a door was open to this industry that I've never really worked in before.
Before we go on to Imaginative, actually, you told me a really kind of amazing story about going over to Canada.
Yeah.
Because, I've had that experience as well, going and talking to Indigenous communities overseas. Can you tell us about that moment where you connected with the community a little bit?
Well, I actually moved over to Canada in the dead of winter. I've never experienced snow ever in my life. Didn't even have the right gear. I didn't even own a winter coat. Anyways, it was like I moved over there. I had one friend. She's like a non-Indigenous person, and so she wasn't part of the community. So I kind of had to take it upon myself to just go out there and meet people. And then I found out about the Toronto Community Centre. It was just like a native community centre. And, kind of navigating around, freezing my ass off. And as I was kind of walking around the city trying to follow the map, it was actually something that I smelt that resonated home for me. And I could smell campfire. I could smell someone burning a fire. And I'm like, in the middle of the city, it's such a foreign place to me. And then as soon as I smelt that fire, I felt a comfort. And I knew I made that right decision. I'm in the right place at the right time. And I followed that smell, actually, and it actually led me to where I needed to go. And I was like, where is this, what's going on here? And all these mobbers sitting around campfire, and I walked in and I did the head nod and they did it back to me. I'm like, hey, this is my real Blackfella, hey. I was like, and all these little things kind of validated my time there, like I was supposed to be there. And I come out, I signed up for membership so I could know what was going on in the community, come back out and they're still there, and they kind of waved me over. And I went over there and I introduced myself and I said, oh, what's the fire for? And they're like, oh, an elder just passed away and we have to burn the fire for 4 days and someone's got to mind the fire. I was there for the next 2 hours. I got songs sung to me. I laid tobacco down. That was just the cultural immersion for me. That was just the pinpoint there that I knew I was going to be all right for the next 2 years.
Awesome.
And, and whatever I did or whatever path I took while I was there, I knew it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing for me. And so when I did work with Imaginative, it just, all my ducks lined up in a row. Like, I was just, how lucky was I? And it was just amazing to be part of that process. And that was my introduction into the Indigenous film industry. So, yeah.
So at some point, Pauline approached you and had a crazy idea? How did that all come about, Winda?
Yeah, look, it was the last festival I was working on, so she kind of had an idea I had to head home soon. And she's been a part of Imaginative since the inception, so she's, pretty much a patron of Imaginative. And so she saw me working over there and doing my thing, and she sat me down. She's like, "Deeks, I really like what you're doing here." And and Pauline's been a filmmaker for over 20 years, so she's someone that I really look up to and respect. And for her to ask me to be a part of something new, coming home with only 2 years' experience behind me, really, but I got so much out of that time at Imaginative. And the industry is such a tight-knit community, and internationally, like all the Indigenous film festivals around the world. We've even got the festival director here from Māoriland,
Hey.
meeting all these amazing people that are part of this tight, close community that are from all around the world. And, I got to step into that and be a part of that and get to learn everyone's names and it was just amazing opportunity. And Pauline had asked me to be a part of the start of winter. And and then it all just kind of happened from there on. And I arrived back into Australia 2016. And we had the festival later that year. So the same year we were able to put on the festival.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give you a little bit of a taste of what Winda is about. We'll just play you a little sizzle reel, I think we've got here. Yeah.
Breaking up of families and communities, we say sorry.
What you got for me, Daddy? Ain't it plain to see? The sun's come out from the clouds. Ain't no rain on me. You ain't what I need. Ain't no use trying to set me free. See what you're hiding from me. Hey. Ain't no rain on me. Said ain't no rain on me. Ain't no rain on. Ain't no rain on me. Ain't no rain.
Obviously, it's an amazing home for Australian Indigenous films and international films as well. How hard is it, and how far have we come in terms of getting Indigenous films into cinemas in Australia and into festivals?
I think we have a really good. I think Indigenous films are doing really well in Australia. I think we've got a place here, and people are really eager and hungry for it. I mean, you've got the likes of Warwick Thornton and Rachel Perkins, that are making films all the time. Like, Warwick's film opened the Sydney Film Festival last year with We Don't Need a Map. So, and he opened our film festival last year as well. And all these filmmakers are just, we've got so much content, we've so many stories to tell that we do have a platform within the wider community. within Australia and Sydney. You know, Sydney is known as the city of film with 50-odd film festivals, but we didn't have one Indigenous film festival represented. So that was the gap that we identified and we wanted to fill. You know, we've got the likes of like the Message Sticks Film Festival that was done over at the Opera House, you know, curated by Rachel Perkins and Ani Rhoda Roberts, and, you know, and they've paved the way for us. We've drawn, you know, that inspiration and from them, and, you know, and to create something like this, we just wanted to create a platform for, you know, just another platform, extra room for more films.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I want to open up a question to the whole panel, basically, because you three in particular have worked in communities outside of your other work that you've done, going and running workshops, facilitating youth to enter the arts. Do you feel, as Indigenous creatives, more of a sense of responsibility to do that sort of work outside of pursuing your own careers? And what types of things have you done?
I mean, we just, Bea and I actually recently came back from some workshops we were doing out Community Way in Brewarrina for a Bayami's Nunu festival. So I think that it was just so powerful, and I think speaking to, you know...
You were there for a whole month, yes.
Yeah, for a month, yep, yeah. And we... you know, like in my experience, I felt like it was definitely my responsibility as a musician to inspire, you know, like it's not even inspire, but bring about that curiosity and talent that's already there, and to be like, all right, well, let's try this and actually foster some cool music, you know, happenings. And, you know, that's exactly what we did in our festival. So it was really... amazing.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And that was your community up there, you know, that was your family community.
Yeah.
For me, helping, like working in community and inspiring young fellas, I feel like if you take the time out to expand a young person's mind and spend time with them, get to know their interests and what they want to do, you know, then the world's their oyster. And to me, these are young people that are going to be in the film industry, you know. They might be on one of my productions, they might be wanting to put into window. If I can inspire that, then I'm cheering.
That's it.
And Deeks, you know, your first several years of your career, this is what you were doing.
I mean, part of Live Australia, you know, danced doing workshops around Australia for 10 years. And, you know, we went to communities, you know, not just once, multiple times, because it was so important that we built a rapport with these mob, you know, with the young people in the community. You know, it wasn't just blowing out of town, and it wasn't about that. You know, and just letting them know that they've got a bigger brother or sister there, you know what I mean? And I think creating that relationship with them and knowing that, you know, we're here all to support each other, whatever their dreams are, and they can do it out in their own communities. You know, they don't have to come to the big cities anymore. You know what I mean? You can make films from where you come from, and I think that's the most important thing. Is about telling your own story, not trying to tell someone else's story. And you know, and that's just coming from, you know, storytelling with films. You know, and I think we really do need to invest in our young people. You know, there's a really good example with the Māoriland Film Festival. The Rahatangi, the young people, the youth are putting on their own film festival as part of the whole festival. And I think because they're passing on the reins, they're kind of like giving them the confidence and the responsibility for them. We don't always have to be responsible because they're people too with their own minds and their own thoughts. Give them the responsibility. And I think if we can just pass that on to them, give them that experience, you know, just teach them, you know, young people inspire me. You know what I mean? I think it's both ways. Cool.
I'm going to bring up our final member of the panel. I'll give him a bit of an intro. He's danced around the world with Bangara, produced for some of Australia's biggest contemporary festivals, including Vivid, Big Day Out, Yirramboy and Homeground. He's now focused on his work as an independent artist and is the current recipient of the Create New South Wales Aboriginal Arts Fellowship, researching Gamilaroi language and law. Welcome, Travis de Vries. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Now, Trav, your art weaves Gamilaroi stories, European folklore, and pop culture together. And it's pretty genre-defying, some of your exhibitions or performances. Can you just describe what someone would see or experience when they go and see Travis?
It's really hard to describe what I do. I tend to use whatever medium best fits the concept I'm going for at the time. I've worked in dance, I've worked in live storytelling, I've worked in written word, visual arts, music, video stuff. When you walk into one of my works, everything kind of exists within this sort of separate universe from where we are now, the Traviverse, if you will. And everything that I do kind of goes into that universe, so they all kind of connect to each other and tell this larger story. So when you walk into one of my visual arts pieces, you kind of get connected to my storytelling pieces because there's elements of that being brought in. And like the paintings they're like huge panels out of a comic book for me, telling this story in the visual realm. But I mean, you're going to see a lot of things, like, because I guess I kind of like to mess with things a little bit, like the status quo of what being an Aboriginal artist can mean. I've never really liked being put in a box or having boundaries, which was, part of the reason I finished up at Bangara was because it's an amazing vehicle for what they do, but it really wasn't giving me the voice or the platform that I wanted to create my work. I tend to be a little bit more weird, and I don't tell my own story. I like to think I tell lies for a living. I make a lot of shit up. So walking into one of my works, you're going to see some nudity. You're going to see Indigenous gods. You're going to see all of this kind of stuff in this parallel universe where folklore from Europe and America and Australia is all interacting with each other in this crazy, kooky way, and it gets brought to life in all of these different mediums.
So I think that brings up a really interesting idea of cultural authority when creating art. Do you have any concern about using things like traditional language or repurposing stories in your art? And then how do you navigate that in terms of speaking to community, speaking to elders? What do you do?
I've gotten in trouble before, but in a good way, because everyone means well. I'm not doing anything that's malicious, and the community elders that have pulled me up have said they've never actually been from my community, interestingly enough. Like, I've gone and talked to people from my community and elders from there, and they're like, "You're an artist. You don't need to come and talk to us to do this. Go and do it. Go and explore and create. And you don't need to stick to these traditions," which is it's something I really believe in with Aboriginal culture, and particularly my Gamilaroi culture, is that I want it to be living and breathing every day. I don't want it to stagnate, because for me that's our death. And so when I applied for funding through organisations, I come up against a bit of a brick wall with my head, because they want me to have all of these letters of support from my local community, and I'm like, well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm an artist. I want to be out there on the fringe, out there on the edge. And like one of the things that someone close to me said was, like 300 years ago, 10,000 years ago, you didn't need permission to go and do a painting on a cave wall. You don't need to get permission from us now. That said, I go and get the letters, and they give it to me, and it's fine.
Just ticking the box. I'm wondering what everyone else thinks about that in terms of like when you're dealing with someone's traditional story. You know, you've all dealt with elements of culture and weaving it in with contemporary art. How big a concern is that you might cross some sort of boundary there, and what kind of processes do you go through in your art? Maybe Ryan.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. I think, you know, for someone, you know, like me as a rapper, I'm engaging in an African American, and not just African American culture, but a culture of multiple black and brown cultures in America. And so it's weird if you think of it in that context of how I'm addressing Aboriginal stories and culture and content through something that's not from here. And I think that took a while for, you know, for especially elders, especially Aboriginal elders, to come to terms with or to see the value in it. I don't know if that kind of resonates with anyone, but you know, in relation to hip hop, more and more are we seeing, especially, you know, Indigenous elders saying, okay, like this, I can see the education, like the benefits of it, blah blah blah. Yeah.
B, when you're making a film about a particular community, you know, is this a concern that's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm quite new to this area myself, but like working in Alice Springs, you know, that's not my community, that's not my people, that's not my culture. I have to take time out to not only just protect myself culturally, but to tread across somebody else's land respectfully and to portray their culture respectfully.
Yeah.
Like, I would hate it if the family watched this documentary at some film festival and they didn't like the portrayal of Dwan or the family or the community, you know. And in regards to storytelling, sharing our cultural lore, that it just further reinforces that kind of respect and empathy you need for those group of people. I wish I was ballsy as Travis to just go out and I want to make this story, I'm going to tell this and you're going to listen. I know for me, like, as ballsy as I seem, like, I don't have that kind of heart to go on into somebody else's country and say, you need this, we're going to tell this about your people and you're going to be happy with it because you're going to be famous and get this check at the end. That's not creating art for me, that's creating a problem. So yeah, it's just about taking the time out to ask those questions about the portrayal of the people you're showing, and I guess, yeah, building those genuine, heartfelt relationships. So there's no pretense, there's no bullshit, there's nothing, you know.
Yeah.
It's just honest.
Deeks, is this something you've had to deal with as well?
You know, like with the film festival, you know, we've had some, you know, just with VR and how new age it is and how we've adapted to it and how we're using it. For example, Curtis Taylor that has this beautiful piece on VR, virtual reality, and how he's working with his mob and his elders, and he's actually taking that home. You know, it's the story of his people, you know, the Maralinga, you know, and just how he's adapted with VR. And I'm sure, you know, all the consultation that he would have had to do, you know, about what this is and telling that story. But it's done so beautifully, and just the two mediums, how we still have our culture, but we're using this platform and how that that transcends across.
Yeah.
You know, we're not losing anything there. We're not, you know, we're not sacrificing. We're just using that to
Sharing.
share it. You know what I mean? And that's travelled all around the world. You know, the first time I seen it was, I think it was in at Toronto. You know what I mean? And the fact that it's travelled so far, and it's his story, it's his home, it's his grandfather talking to you. You know what I mean? And that becomes a story between you. You know, that it feels personable because he's talking to you. And I think, you know, I can just imagine the consultation. You know, kind of talking about this concept with old and new, you know what I mean? I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah,
definitely. I want to hear a little bit about, I suppose right now there obviously is a bigger demand than in the past for emerging young Indigenous artists, but we're coming into white spaces sometimes, or we're coming into spaces that maybe aren't ready for us. I want to hear about some of the roadblocks to that. You know, I know sometimes young Indigenous artists are undervalued, are asked to work for free. Has anyone had those experiences?
Oh my God. Let's open it up. You were going to say?
There you go.
I mean, you know, like the music industry is, we'll pay you in exposure, we'll shout your socials, and we'll give you food. Like, I expected that. Plus 500. Yeah. It's interesting, actually, you know, because there will be more often than not, people will either try and not pay you, or they'll underpay you. And amongst all of that, you need to figure out what you're worth yourself, you know? Like how much is too much and how much is not enough. And I don't know, like I've come across, I'm trying to figure that out for myself still, you know, especially because the price is not on the wall. You need to figure it out for yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Trav, you're pretty established and, you know, working in these massive festivals. How do you kind of value yourself and push yourself?
I let them tell me how much I'm worth, and then if I don't like it, I still take the job, but I just don't show up. Yeah, I'm sick that day. It's worked in the past.
Sure, great advice.
Great.
Well, I was like, they should really value us more.
Yeah. Message now to everyone.
There are standard rates for artists in Australia, and like as a former producer, like I'm very aware of that. And so they shouldn't be undercutting that in any way, shape, or form. And so, like, that's my way as an artist to teach that person, organization, a lesson is like, oh well, see ya. You think you've got me booked, but I'm not going to help you out on this one.
I'm interested.
I'm not going to mention any names.
I mean, you can if you want. It's up to you. How do we change that? I know, Deeks, you've talked to me about this idea of creating Indigenous-owned and controlled bodies in the arts that will, you know, obviously not be looking to underpay young Indigenous people. Tell us a bit about that.
I mean, I think my experience working with different projects is I am a freelancer at the end of the day. Like I work on window maybe less than 6 months of the year, and that's because of funding. But when I'm doing other things, you know, I'm picking up different projects and different roles, and you know, I do identify gaps where, you know, we need stuff there. We need something happening here. You know, we need a representation, you know, for, you know, that particular space. But, you know, and when you feel like you've identified something, you want to go for it. You want to be a part of it. You want to make that change. And I think, you know, I don't even know, like, where do you start? Like, where do you even, like, start putting ideas together? I mean, you put ideas together, but where do you get that support? And I think, you know, and it's all about, you know, doing it the right way and paying mob the right price, you know what I mean, and pay their worth. And how do we estimate that? You know, how do we go off experience? Do we go off, you know, that's the discussion we need, I think.
I think you mentioned to me the idea of an Indigenous talent agency is something actually that we really need.
I mean, I kind of already doing it without getting paid. Like, mob always come to me, oh, do you know anyone for this? Oh, do you know anyone? I'm like, we need something here because, you know, working within this one project, I identified that we didn't have a representation of just even extras, you know, and the agencies out there don't have a big pool of Indigenous extras. We're getting blackfellas all over TV now. We need to pick up our game and start, you know, creating a pool of Indigenous, you know, extras, talent, you know, for all type of things. And I think, you know, we need to be ready and, you know, and create a system where, you know, we're doing it right and our mob are being represented well and paid properly as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
For real,
Yeah.
for real.
B, is this something you've come across as well? I suppose undervaluing of your worth as a producer and an artist. You don't have to name names.
No, definitely. Like I'm still making my way up the ladder, you know, but I feel like I'm kind of at the bottom of the ranks. But even in that, it's more so from what these guys have said. I feel everything, but I hate that whole ticker box mannerisms of going out into something that's outside of black arts. The second I walk onto a white production or a non-Indigenous production, I'm ticking all their boxes. I'm a young black girl, I'm a young queer person from Western Sydney. You know, I tick about 20 different freaking boxes. And I make them look good.
Yeah.
And
What are they bringing to you?
and it's like, you need me.
Yeah.
You need my name on that application to get that funding across. And I've had so many people, my friends, yes, I love them. They're not Indigenous, but they need that diverse person on their team. So they'll call me and be like, B, I'm doing this short film. It's not paid or anything, but do you want to come and help me out so I can put your application, I'll put your name on my application? And I've said yes to one or two purely because I love the form or the story that we're working on. But anything other than that, it's like, I'm an artist. I'm more than this black skin. I'm more than this queer person. I'm more than what you're looking at me, you know? And if you value me as a person, then we can have this conversation. We can have this conversation as equals in payment, in the fact that your non-Indigenous stories have been told and monopolised media for years, and now it's our time to get up there. I love these fellas because we're all a part of that slow ongoing wave, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
I know I've been sent manuscripts for books saying, I've got an Indigenous character and I just want you to read this whole manuscript and tell me.
I've had so many friends say, can you just read my script? Because there's this scene with this black fella in it and I'm a bit iffy about it. And I'm like, well, go and get an Indigenous producer and pay them. Or give me $500 to read your script.
Yeah.
Pitch for everyone out there. I'm interested in this idea, I suppose, of being put in a box or ticking a box. Ryan, you've recently won massive arts grants that were open to anyone, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. And I'm wondering whether there's ever, and also, you're on Big Sound last year, I'm wondering whether there's a concern you could be pigeonholed in that way, starting out as an Indigenous artist, and you deliberately go and try out for these mainstream awards. Does that play in your mind at all?
It does. Yeah. I think I worry from time to time about how people see me and what their agenda is, and if it is a friendly one or if it's kind of like you said, to tick a box. And I don't know if there's like a direct answer to that for me just yet. I just am trying to always stay aware of it, because I know that a lot of us, mob in the music industry will be pigeonholed as an Indigenous act. And it's like, playing Indigenous music or something other than the hip hop group that they're supporting that night, or something other than, the actual genre that they are, engaging in. So there's a lot of that stuff does happen, and I don't think people realize that it's happening. It's a very strange thing. I don't know. It's something that I need to keep. I think that's something that all black musicians need to be aware of. What gig are you about to be booked for? Who is it? What's their motive? And I guess just kind of being aware of that, that sort of stuff.
Is there a sense when you win, a big mainstream grant, kind of like, well, yes, I am excellent artist in general.
Yeah, yeah.
I beat all of y'all.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that actually a rapper named Birds from Melbourne once said is that, you know, I'm an Aboriginal musician, but I'm also Aboriginal and I'm also a musician. And I deserve to be able to get all the grants that any white person can get. I deserve also the ones that are for Indigenous people specifically, yes, but don't box me in. You know, it's not like you have paved a way for us to now leave the group. That's not what it's there for. That's an extra thing. So we you know, because we need to be able to compete. I think about rappers like Briggs. I think about rappers like Jimbla. I think about rappers like The Last Connection, Nate Wenatong. They are all amazing musicians, and they're black. You know, they're not amazing. They're not amazing because they're black musicians. They're just amazing because of those two things put together. I
feel like some of these kind of dangerous pigeonholing and underestimating concepts come through a lot in arts criticism. And I know, Trav, in particular, you know, feel that arts criticism is often very shallow and doesn't quite get to the heart of Indigenous art. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I think that arts criticism in Australia, particularly around Indigenous works, is not critical enough. Like, pretty much anything that any black fella makes is just, yeah, that's cool, it's great, because it's a black fella making it. And yes, they should be making it, because we had so long where we weren't able to make that work and be kind of lauded in the mainstream. But I think at the moment there's a bit of a thing going on where it's like just anything you make is like, yeah, that's great, really good job. And it doesn't get talked about in a good critical way where it's like, no, that was shithouse. Like,
do better.
Do better. Like, and the difference between like community art, which is, you know, it has its place and it's a great thing, and then professional art, like they both get talked about in the exact same way in critical discourse. And it just kind of, it means we can't have any super amazing artists because everyone's at the same level. Like, we're never going to have an Aboriginal David Bowie because everyone's being talked about the same way.
How do you change that then? What's the message that you give to the arts critics of Australia?
Be better.
Yeah.
Get good.
No.
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I think we need more Aboriginal art critics. And Jacob Boehm down at Yurumboy is doing some really good things down there and training people up as the festival grows to talk about the work. But I think they need to be allowed to also give bad criticism because it's so difficult within our Aboriginal arts community where everyone knows everyone. And so to give a bad review is really difficult because, you know, that spear's going to come from the side.
Is that something, is there anyone else on the panel kind of experienced that?
I find that for myself, like I've just started to write a couple of my own scripts and whatnot, and kind of bouncing off what Travis was saying, like I feel a little bit reluctant to send my scripts to my blackfella mentors because I feel like they're only going to give me half-assed critical feedback, and you know, like
you can give it to me.
I crave people. Like, I want someone to tell me, no, that's shit, you need to focus. Or, no, what is wrong with that story, you know, what is that? I want people to ask me these questions, you know, and I don't know, I think it's just because we're all trying to build each other up at the same level. I don't know, maybe we're too young in this industry of trying to be professionals. You know, maybe we don't have high enough people to be able to do that. You know, imagine if there was
if we do, they're too high and they're too busy.
Exactly.
They're doing everything.
Like, imagine if, like, Larissa Brenner, she's an amazing producer. Imagine if she could, like, times herself by 20. I feel like we might have a little bit more critical feedback from people like that, you know. Yeah, I'm a little bit baffled by it. It's still an interesting question for me.
Definitely.
What about you,
I
sis?
think it's it's an important topic to talk about because I think everyone in their profession is doing so well and they're making work and they're being it's out there, and I think it is I mean with Blackfellas I think it is important to be criticised, and only because you want to do better. That's the whole purpose. I think the critics need to point out, what could be better, and I think that only builds each other up. But I think we do it in an appropriate way too, and I think we do it with. I mean, it's a hard one because we're all just still starting in this game. We've been pushed back, but we're catching up. You know what I mean? And I think what has been put on us in society, due to colonisation, look where we are today. I think we can applaud where we are today because it's so important that we're making a mark in this world. And I think
still push forward for
and
excellence.
Still push forward, but I think we do it, critical, but in like a supportive way. And I think we can only do it holding hands and supporting each other. So I mean, and we can only grow and learn from that. And I think it's important that we have our work criticised, but I think maybe that's to come. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I mean, if anyone wants to criticise my work, you can do that. I'd be happy to hear from you. Outside, behind.
In the parking lot, eh? Yeah.
Let's go.
Cool. So, last question for the whole panel, I suppose. Looking back at you starting out in the industry, what advice would you give to yourself or give to another young artist, producer, filmmaker that you wish you had known when you were first starting? Start with Ryan.
Ooh, what a question. If I were to talk to a person starting up in the music industry and being a musician, it's so cliche. It's so cliche. But keep making shit that is keep making shit that is true to you, because that resonates with music, that resonates with stories, that resonates with your culture, and that resonates with hip hop. The 5 elements of hip hop is emceeing, DJing, graffitiing. Am I getting this right?
Yeah.
Turntablism, and knowledge is the 5th element, and knowledge brings those things all together, and you can't. And out of all of that comes truth. So it's about being true. Cliche.
That's great. Bee?
I think if I was talking to my 16-year-old self, I had zero confidence as a young person, so I'd be like, grow a pair. Trust in yourself. It's better to seek forgiveness than ask permission. And like Ryan said, you just have to be true to who you are in your heart, especially as an artist. If your heart wants to be an artist, then you go for that 110%. I'm sick of people saying the arts careers are just hobbies. It's not. If that's the case, then I'd be broke. I wouldn't be here. Well, I am broke, but there you go. And yeah, just be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Biggs?
I guess, like these guys, listen to your heart, follow your passion. I think it's important that we connect to community and our elders. Always, listen to what our elders are saying, because, they've lived those experiences, and they can only share with you what they've learnt. And just take time out for yourself. And just, listen to your heart. I think it's important to really just follow your dreams. Nothing's impossible. it may seem impossible being a young Aboriginal person, but it's not. And I think, you know, there's so many things out there, that there's so many support, different, you know, avenues that you can go down. There's always support systems along the way, and I think, you know, if you stay grounded, you stay connected, there won't be anything that will go wrong.
Trav?
Oh, I guess I've had the most time to think about my answer now. Do I need to do the like censored version or?
No.
All right, I'm
Go
going for it.
Go for it. It's the last question.
Okay. Try everything. Go out and get laid. Take drugs. Get drunk. Get your heart broken, and then at the end of the night, go home and make work about it. And then tell everyone about it. Like, tell everyone about your work and what you're doing, and have fun with it. And be depressed and be sad and make more work about that. Yeah. And then tell everyone about it again.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to give you a round of applause for all those answers.
Real talk.